So I grew up in McDonough, Georgia, with a very close, tight-knit family. I'm very close to my mom and my dad and my sister. I have one sister who's 2 years older. And we just were the crazy, loud family. We all talked at the same time. We just loved to be together, like family. My parents very much so instilled in us that family is everything, and so we love large groups and all of us to be together at one time. I was a little chubbier as a child and a little overweight. I came from a very health-conscious family. My dad was a runner. My mom got into running, and so fitness was a big deal in the family that I grew up in. And so I got very into running with my dad. My parents kind of worried because I was a little bit overweight as a child. And so I think early on, my love for health and fitness and lifestyle, of living a healthy lifestyle, became very important at a very early age. So I don't really ever remember not caring about fitness and health, even from a very young girl. So the first time that I noticed that I had just kind of gotten this rash was after a run.
So we were at the beach and she mentioned it, and she's always really smart and in tune with her body and educates herself online and different things.
And it's very common when you do long runs to experience chafing, and so I initially thought this just has to be from a sports bra, or just rubbed my arm too wrong, with one way.
I think my mom and I both kind of took it lightly because it made sense that a rash would be on her breast, and the only thing that concerned us slightly that we spoke about, just my mother and I afterwards, was that it kept reoccurring.
So it made me a little bit worried, because when she said, hey, I have this rash, I'm kind of, worried about it. I kind of took it seriously to an extent.
And so I did what anybody else would do and put like an antibiotic cream on it, and it went away and all was good. And then it came back another time. I did the same thing. It went away. The third time was while I was at the beach with some friends, and I noticed after a run that it had come back and it actually become sore this time. It was just a little more painful. So I mentioned it to my friend Kim, and she's always super positive and like, look, don't worry about it till you get back.
She said, Kim, I just think it's something, it might be something called Paget's disease. Of course, I had never heard of Paget's disease. So she said, I'm going to go to the doctor when we get back and get it checked out. I said, okay.
And so we got back home to Columbus, and she had it checked on. And I believe the doctor, she went in and said, hey, I think I have Paget's disease.
And so I shared with Dr. Scarborough when I walked in that I was sure that I had Paget's disease, that this is what had come up, and I was sure.
And he said, highly unlikely, like it's so rare. I don't think so, but she had done all that research and kind of figured it out a little bit on her own.
We went and had a mammogram and an ultrasound that day, and everything came back fine, and there were really no worries. So Dr. Scarborough could tell that I wasn't okay with that, and he said, you're not really okay with this, are you? And I said, I'm not. I just think something is wrong. I really think that there's more to this.
I mean, you don't know when she first mentions it. You just don't know because it's so early, and so you kind of take it seriously. But I'm an optimistic person, so I try not to get really upset and worried until it's time to get upset and worried. And in the beginning, I tried to stay kind of even keel about it a little bit until she got to the doctor, not to get her any more anxious.
So he said, let's do a biopsy on Friday, and this was a Monday. And so a week later, I did a biopsy. And sure enough, the very following Thursday, while I was out for a run, Dr. Scarborough called me and said, I really am in shock that I'm telling you this, that you were right, you have Paget's disease. It was Teek's senior year, and I just really didn't want anything to, highlight anything other than his football and what was going on in his life, and it was just going to be the best year, so I didn't want it to be Mom's cancer year was now the highlight of his year. So he was getting ready to leave for a week-long bus trip where he was going to go to different colleges and try to kind of get some exposure. So Todd and I made a decision that we were not going to tell Teak until he got back from the trip, so that he and I have always had a very unique, special bond, super close, and I knew that he was my worrywart and he would worry. So we were going to wait and tell him when he got back. With all that said, I started hitting the road with doctor's appointments and seeing different doctors, and things were moving quickly. At one point in time, I looked at, maybe going outside of Columbus for treatment, but after lots of prayer, I love the fact that Chuck Scarborough had started talking with other doctors, even in other states. I just felt like I was supposed to be here. This was where I was supposed to, especially with it Teak's senior year with treatment. And with that, I found out that really they wanted to go ahead and get me into surgery for the double mastectomy once we made that decision on a Friday, and Teak was not expected to be home on until Saturday. And I just could not be put to sleep or go through, a very lengthy surgery like that without speaking to him. I mean, odds are nothing was going to happen, but I just felt like I needed to speak to him before. So I actually called the coaches that had him for the week, and luckily one of his best friends, Jacob Brovig, was with him, and we told Jacob kind of what was about to happen so that he could be right there with Teak. And I just, I was super positive. I said, Teak, this is no big thing. Mom's going to get in there, get this done. I'll be great. I'll be ready to see you when you get home. And sure enough, by the time he got home on Saturday, I was propped up on the sofa, waiting for him to get there. And I had lots of friends that helped out, one of which was Jacob's mom that drove all the way to Atlanta to get them off the bus and get him home. And he did really well. He, on the phone with me, he took it well. I think he got a little emotional afterwards when he hung up with me, but he did really, really well.
Our other two were a little bit younger. Briggs was early in high school, and then Lily was probably late elementary school. And so, depending on the age, it's different. I mean, I think they're in shock too, like everybody else. I'm a Christian, and some people would say, well, man, does it make it easier? Because, depending on how strong your faith is and everything, I can tell you, I was worried. I had all the normal thoughts, like, I never thought about raising my kids alone, or I was kind of almost numb to a certain extent. And then I started learning stuff like, hey, how long has it been there? How serious is it? Has it gotten in her lymph nodes? All these kind of things that, you don't learn a lot about until it happens.
So Lily was my little nurse through this whole thing. It's kind of a joke that we all say, because we obviously are older parents with a 12-year-old, that she's going to be the one that takes care of Todd and I, and she laughs and promises that she will. And that was kind of the type of person she was through this whole experience. So we were kind of the little redneck family. We got a Yeti cooler, we brought it into the bathroom, it sat right in front of the bathtub on the floor, and whoever was helping me with my drains at the time would sit on the Yeti cooler and help me with the drains and do the measurements and write the measurements down. And Lily just never batted an eye at what she was exposed to or what she had to help with. And sometimes I felt really guilty about it. I thought, this child, who's at the time probably around 9 years old, 10 years old, is seeing and doing things that most 9 and 10-year-olds shouldn't have to see or do. And she always did them with such caution and care, and we found laughter in it. And I mean, I personally think it strengthened our relationship. I don't know that either one of us would want to choose to do it again, but it definitely strengthened our relationship through it. But we talked about it the whole time. She was my little nurse. So my sister and I have always been close growing up. Obviously, being 2 years apart, there was a phase that we, butted heads and would argue and all of that. But my parents, like I said before, instilled family values know that, I don't even know how to describe Lane. She's my best friend. Like, she's who I call about everything first, even if it's to vent about my husband, or she vents about her husband. Like, we call each other, we get each other straight, and then it's like we can attack whatever's ahead of us. Like, we just rely on each other, more so now than ever. It's been a really tough year. Last year we lost both of our parents 4 weeks apart, and that, as hard as that was, it developed a bond even closer than we thought we already had. It reminds us that at the end of the day, it's all about family. It's really all that matters. And I couldn't do life without Lane. I don't know, there's really no other way to put it.
I thank God for her every day. She just left my house, and my heart hurts every time she leaves. But we talk every night, and if she doesn't call me, I give her a tongue lashing, because it's important that I talk to her every day. My mom and my sister spoke every day when my mother was alive, and I'll always miss those Sunday night dinners, but I'll be forever grateful. The bond that my parents forced upon our family.
Tracy, you are an amazing woman. You're an amazing wife. You're an amazing mother.
My inspiration is just gratitude and love and just thankfulness that she's such an incredible wife and mother to her children, and that she would do anything in the world to take care of that family dynamic and her children. And I just appreciate it so much and want to support her any way I can with my love.